What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here today to have a little discussion around selling an absolute monster of a card that was the right decision to get into it when you did, and then you just lost that love and feeling for it over time. What are we talking about? I hinted at this last week. I sold the Moss Rice co-signers that I traded for almost exactly a year ago. I did not realize that. On this post, it says 50 weeks ago when I made this post. For those newer to the channel, you may or may not remember this, but up until just recently, I was the proud owner of the Randy Moss, Jerry Rice co-signers. These do not come to market very often and do not sell very frequently. I sold this on eBay for $2,000. Netted out like $1,750 after eBay fees and all their nonsense and shenanigans. Why did I decide to sell this card now? Well, it kind of goes back to why I got into it in the first place. So this is what you're looking at here. This is the trade that I made a year ago for this card. I traded a LeBron Topps Chrome PSA 8, a Ja Morant auto. That doesn't look so hot today. And that is not a rookie auto. That is a second-year auto. Jose Ramirez Topps Dynasty, a Nick Chubb RPA out of Panini 1, and then like a $10 Denzel Ward sticker auto. This was to a local dealer here in Northeast Ohio. The LeBron was kind of the key piece of the trade. I think those were going for around $1,500-$1,600 at the time. The Ja Morant was going for around $500 or $600. The Ramirez was going for around like $150, $200, and I think the Chubb was around, I don't remember, maybe around the same, like $100. And the Denzel Ward was like a little cherry on top. It was like a $10 or $15 card at most. Why did I make this trade at the time? Part of it was a consolidation trade. I wanted to take some stuff that I was concerned about value-wise going forward and get into something that I thought was a little bit safer and also just reduce smaller pieces and turn it into one nice card that had the potential to hold its value better. LeBron stuff at the time was on its way down. I was already a little bit under on the rookie. The other stuff, I was up on the Chubb and the Ward and the Ramirez ever so slightly, like maybe $20-$25. And the Ja Morant I had traded for at a recent card collector to trade night at the time. I didn't have that card for very long, maybe like a week or two. I did not own that card for too terribly long. So I bundled those things together and traded it for the Rice Moss. He had $2,700 on the sticker. We actually had a value on it lower than that when we got the deal done. I don't remember the final trade value number. I did not go back. There is a video on this trade when I initially did it back on the channel. From his perspective, this was him moving a really big card that at small local shows can be harder to move for things that are very easy to move. So he probably cashed. In fact, I know that he did. He cashed out on most of this stuff fairly quickly after doing this deal. Those 3 Cleveland cards, or 4 Cleveland cards if you included LeBron, all move locally extremely easily, and that was back in the day before Ja Morant thought he was Clint Eastwood and John Wayne, and actually had some value to his cards. For me, like I said at the time, picking up the Moss Rice, boy, say that 10 times fast, co-signers at the time was a move to safety/stability. It was the 2 best wide receivers of all time. It was one of their few, if their only, dual on-card autos. Co-signers is a very well-known set. I like the card a lot. I have no true love for either one of the 2 players. I like Randy Moss. I wouldn't mind owning a nice Randy Moss card at some point in time. I like Jerry Rice. I wouldn't mind owning a nice Jerry Rice card at the time. But I was never like, as expensive as the card was, it just never, there was never an emotional attachment to it, I guess. It was purely a transactional based attachment to it. The other thing that slightly scared me a little bit on this card, and this is part of the reason why I never displayed it, which is another reason why I was kind of like, I'm never going to be able to show this thing off. What are we doing here? The autos are clean. They're clean, but they are with a black Sharpie. And you could see where over time they had slowly started to fade. Now, not much, but a little bit around the edges. This isn't the best photo to show that off. But the auto was probably a 9 auto. If the auto was graded, it was probably a 9 auto. My concern was holding it long term, because I think the auto's fine for a while, but holding it for 5, 10, 15 years, whatever the case might be, I was concerned that the auto would get worse over time, and that just was something I did not want to deal with. And because of that, I was afraid to put the card out. I didn't want any extra light on the card, potentially affecting the autos long term, so I always kept it tucked away in my case or lockbox because I just didn't want to mess with it. I didn't want to take the risk of it being out. Now, I could have gotten a UV protectant slab mag or something like that. They make some slab cases, hashtag not sponsored. They make UV protectant cases that you could put over your PSA slab or Beckett slab or graded slab to give it UV protection. And I thought about doing that if I was going to keep the card. I have shopped this card around, but not aggressively. It's been on eBay actually for quite a while. I had it at like some absurd price. I think I had it at like mid twos. I would set it out at like trade nights and stuff that I would go to looking for 16 to 2. I would usually say I was looking for 2K for it, but I was willing to go down a few $100 on it. There was no real good comps. The last one sold in the fall of last year it was a BGS 9 for like $2,200. So a PSA 8 doing 2,000 on a public comp is actually a pretty strong price for it. But like I said, they don't sell very often. Only maybe 3 or 4 sell in a year. You could find them posted on eBay and stuff. They're usually at super high ask prices. High grades of this go for astronomical sums of money. So if it didn't sell by the National, I actually thought about cracking it out and letting BGS grade it to see if maybe it could squeak into like an 8.5 or a 9 or something like that. But the other day, this was a week ago now almost, I had it listed for $2,200. I sent out an offer of $2,000. This item always had a lot of viewers and a lot of watchers. Didn't think anything of it. I woke up the next morning and it said, your card is sold. And I was like, wait, what? And someone smacked the bin on it. Now, I immediately had that, after you sell it, you're like, what have I just done? And then I quickly realized I remember why I wanted to sell it in the first place. So I talked about this in the video last week as well. My goal here was, like I talked about, the card, I was transactionally attached to it, but there was no emotional investment for me. It was a good card. It would have held its value going forward. Unless the world went to absolute crap, this card was always going to be very valuable. It's an iconic card with 2 iconic players and autographed. But it was taking up a big chunk of my inventory at a 2K price tag. And I just looked around and said, there's just I shouldn't say better. There's just other things I would rather spend that money on. And, I would like a nice LeBron again. Whether that be an auto or I've slightly considered maybe, depending on what his prices do with the playoffs, looking at a rookie refractor in like a PSA 8. Those go for about $5K, I think, presently. I don't know what they'll go for by the time we get to the National. But walking this card around trying to trade for it for a big card versus just having the $2,000 or $1,700 in cash, it's just way easier to get stuff done with the cash. I'm going to have more leverage in a negotiation with straight $100 bills than I am that cosigner's card. That's why I ultimately sold it. There are, I talked about it at the very beginning of the year. There are a couple big things that I would like to potentially go for this year, and cashing out on this card is going to advance me towards that. Either a nice LeBron, whether that's an auto or maybe a rookie refractor, or an X-Men #1. The X-Men #1 is still a little bit more of a long shot. That book is still very expensive. I'd have to find the right grade at the right price that presents just right, and I'd probably have to buy it in person. So, regardless, that's why I decided to move this card. I know a lot of people were guessing in the comments last week. They're like, no, you sold the Rice Moss, didn't you? Oh, I should have offered on it. Oh, why didn't I make a move on it? Oh, don't sell that card. There was a lot of those comments in there. But if it doesn't truly speak to you, then what are we really doing here? Yes, it would have held value extremely well, but there are other things that I feel like I could go buy with this money that have the potential to be a store of value just like this was. This card served its purpose for me. I moved off of things that I felt like would go down considerably over the near term and the long term for a card that I felt was much safer. And though this card, I really probably, only because I sold it and had to eat the eBay fees, probably didn't lose a ton of value based off the number that we traded off of. Maybe like a couple $100. And I can tell you right now, most of the stuff that I traded went way down, especially the LeBron PSA 8 auto. Those came down quite a bit. And I can't imagine a John Morant second-year auto is a hot commodity at the moment. The Jose Ramirez is still sell for around $150 to $200. The Nick Chubb Panini one I haven't checked on in a while. And like I said, the other one was a throw-in. So the card served its purpose for me. I was very happy to own it and have it in my possession and take care of it for about a year. And I am glad to be sending this off to its next owner. Maybe this was an absolute grail piece for them. I believe it's going to California. I don't remember. So maybe it's a big Randy Moss or a big Jerry Rice fan. The other thing that I'll say, just as a side note to this whole situation, we talk about eBay authenticity guarantee, and I remember being a little bit critical of it when it first rolled out. And we always kind of talk about it from the protecting the buyer side of things. I will say, as a seller, it was kind of a breath of fresh air that it had to go through authenticity guaranteed. Anytime you have to ship a big item like this, there's just always like a level of concern. But knowing that it got safely to the eBay or to PSA's offices, because they do the authenticity guarantee on it, that they got it and cleared it, and now it's shipping on to the final buyer, kind of really lessened my anxiety about this whole transaction. Anytime you sell something big on eBay, there's always like this hold your breath moment of, oh my God, how much feedback does the buyer have? Where's this card going? And the eBay authenticity thing really did kind of ease my concerns on that a little bit, because it got in their hands, they cleared it, and then now they're shipping it off. So now it's kind of, it's their problem to deal with if something goes sideways, not mine. So I will say that is a nice side benefit of that program from a seller perspective. It just gave me a little bit more peace of mind when shipping it off. So, but that's the card. She is gone. We have a fresh $1,700 in the old bank account to do some damage with. Like I said, I will probably take that to Heroes Con and see what we could do with it, and probably roll some of it over to the National as well, unless we get absolutely wild at Heroes Con and run into some deals. But we'll see what the future holds with that money. But for right now, it is cashed out. Sad to see the Moss Rice go, but that's the way this game works sometimes. If I really, really want the card back again, they let you buy them back. I can always get it back at a later date and time. It's rare, but it's not that rare. That's all I got for you, boys and girls. Catch you on the next one. Peace.